All right, guys, we are live. This is the Shillan and Duffy recap show, UFC Edmonton, being brought to you by sherdog.com. As you guys know, this is the most in-depth recap show, at least we claim it is, on planet Earth. I am your host. My name is Keith Shillan. Joining me as always, might have to correct that. Joining me,
we can't even say as usual.
Usually, or joining me as occasionally, like it's
like
is Mr. Ben Duffy.
I tell you, man, like, and I said this to you offline before we fired up. We're gonna have to rename this the Shillan or Duffy recap because it seems like it's very rare that both of us are here at the same time.
Yeah,
it's good to talk to you. I always talk to you before the fights. It's good to talk to you after the fights, even these fights.
Yeah, this is the first time in over a month that the varsity team, screw Devin Dane, the varsity team is here. As last week, unfortunately, I will apologize again, UFC 308, some minor card. Unfortunately, neither one of us could make it. Both things kind of happening last minute. We both were planning on it. And we apologize again. Sometimes life just gets in the way. The event before that, it wasn't Shillan and Duffy. It wasn't Shillan or Duffy. It was the
Devin Dane show.
Devin Dane, the double D's. The people love double D's. MMA fans love double D's.
Yes, yes, they do.
I think the card before that was you and Dev, I believe. The card before that was me and Dane. We're going way back, like over a month. But anyways, Shillan and Duffy are both here. We have 13 fights to get to. Let's get right into it just because there's a lot of stuff to talk about. Shout out to all the people in the chat. I see a lot of the usuals. Thanks for not completely abandoning us. I'm sure some people are saying we're done with these guys. Can't count on them. There's no commitment. I get it. We'll try to be better. Let's get right into it. Main event, flyweight matchup. Brandon Moreno took on Amir Albazi. A question we ask a lot: was it good for the UFC for Brandon Moreno to win?
No.
Okay.
What? I mean, it's a little bit of a no lose because Moreno is obviously an extremely popular fighter anywhere you go. I mean, we just talked last week about how if you don't love Max Holloway, Robert Whittaker, Dan Ige, something's wrong with you. Moreno is along the lines of that. So it's not a terrible thing, but in terms of options for where to go from here, what to do next, of course, you don't want the guy that's fought your current champ 3 times already and, fought your last champ 4 times and has fought everybody in the top 10 except Albazi until about half an hour ago. Yeah. Like Moreno is continuing to paint the UFC into a corner, but it's not like he's this Marab type figure that they're just trying to hold off as long as possible. He's still Brandon freaking Moreno.
Yeah, I kind of agree. I'm sorry, for some reason I keep sneezing. I agree. Based on this division, it's so shallow that no matter who you have, you got to have a lot of rematches just based on the pure number of people. I love flyweights. Like action wise, I love flyweights, but just talking about the pure number, there's, I mean, how many flyweights do we really have? 20, maybe.
I mean, if we look, there's probably closer to 40 in the division, but so many of them are guys fresh out of the contender series that nobody knows whether they're any good or not yet.
But my point, all right, so if you're the top of the division and you've been in the division a long time, and the guys who are on the top right now, other than Asakura fighting for the title, it's the same guys. It's Royval, it's Moreno, it's obviously Pantoja.
Why do you think Steve Erceg fought to a title shot within a year? It's because he was the first new guy in the UFC flyweight top 15 in like 5 years.
Yeah, it's why they're giving a guy who hasn't fought in the UFC yet and hasn't fought at flyweight in forever since the last time Shillan and Duffy did a show together, did a recap show together. So so everyone who follows the show, listens frequently, knows that there's 2 other things I do other than watching fights. I coach wrestling, I coach softball. That's it. That's like my life. I was at a softball tournament today, our last one of the fall. Well, tomorrow will be the last day of the fall, but I was talking to one of the girls in the dugout, and I don't know how she mentioned her favorite color, and she said, my favorite color is like blue or orange, and I'm like, wait, no, like you're 16, you can't have two favorite colors, you gotta pick one. And I think about I don't know if you follow Brian Regan. Brian Regan has this funny joke about like when he was a kid and getting a snow cone. And he's like, well, I'll get grape because grape's my favorite. But if they don't have grape, I'll get cherry because that's also my favorite. It's like my favorite, but not as much favorite. That's kind of how I felt like the situation that and I'm not doing Brian Regan justice. Check out that guy. That guy might be the funniest dude who's ever lived. Anyways, he's definitely one of my favorite comedians. But so shout out to Brian Regan. Let's someone get Brian Regan to do a recap show one day. Maybe he'll fill in for one of us. I kind of feel that's what happened with this fight, where you have Moreno is such a great option because he's so like beloved. There's certain guys that are just beloved. And I think Moreno's like I don't know anybody who doesn't like Brandon Moreno. And then you have Albazi, you have an Iraqi fighter, which is, obviously there's only three guys they said use three guys in UFC history that's come out of Iraq, fresh new face. So he kind of checks all those boxes. So I kind of felt like Moreno was the good thing for the UFC. But if Albazi had a great showing and won, it'd be like, hey, at least we got this fresh meat. He's probably going skyrocketing. Next time he's fighting for the title. I kind of think that's the situation we're in. Let me ask you a question. And someone put this in the chat. I tweeted it earlier. Is Brandon Moreno the flyweight Max Holloway?
Our third man in the booth.
No, I tweeted it before, so don't try stealing the Dev. I tweeted it like
Dev quit stealing material from me.
I tweeted that like 15 minutes ago.
I like that on a lot of levels. Yeah.
Obviously he has an exciting style, high output, obviously big boxing thing, but it's not just that, it's the personality. Max Holloway he's not a trash talker. He's saying, his trash talk was, it is what it is, or we'll find out, whatever you kept saying this time against Deporia. And then it's all about what he does in the cage in like his, I'm always down to fight. And that's everything Brandon Moreno has. Like he has all the same traits where it's about his fighting, his boxing style, his high output. His trash talk is about his skill, but it never gets personal. It's never it's just, I think I'm the best in the world. I'm a good dude. I play with Legos. Like, like that's like the questions he gets from the media. You know how you always have like that one media member who tries to like think outside the box of the question and like be buddy, and they're like, so I know you're really big into Legos. Did you see the Walmart's coming out with a new, I don't know, series of Legos? Like, what do you think, buddy? And then Brandon Moreno answered the question, but no one gives a shit. But that one media member was trying to be like buddy with him.
Yeah.
But he's still so beloved, and it's not. I know that people like talk about all Mexican. It's not just the Mexican. Like everybody loves him. It's like Hawaiians obviously love Max Holloway, dude, but so does everybody.
I mean, a Canadian arena was shouting, "Let's go, Brandon!" tonight. Like I would normally find that very triggering, but hey, I'm down. It's Canada.
I don't know if it's the most. I think this Canadian arena was a little un-Canadian because at one point they were chanting "fuck the president" or the prime minister of the country. Not that rooting against someone is politically is bad, but Canadians don't swear. That was which was surprising. I'm surprised they didn't say like a normal Canadian crowd would be saying like, we don't think the president is the best option, saying that as he's a swell guy, but not my favorite. Like that might be something like Canadians like, not like fuck Trudeau.
Yeah, it's and maybe it's a regional thing. I know that Edmonton is out to the west and to the north. Maybe it's the equivalent of some of our kind of like more rough and plain spoken rural areas. I don't know. 30C West got jokes. Clearly sees the political balance at the heart of the Shillan and Duffy show.
That's actually why I wasn't here last week. I was on the helping on the campaign trail. Yeah. Even like his post, like he gets in the cage, he has like he's fun. Like you're gonna say something funny, and Like he starts talking like what's next? And they want to say, dude, I want to fight for the title. I want a rematch Pantoja. I should have won that fight. It was, it was a close fight. I want whatever, Instead, it's like, I want to get really fat and eat stuff in Canada. Canada, you people are great. I mean, unfortunately for him, Alex Romanov was also in Canada, the same city.
So all the food's gone.
I don't know if the food is still there, but Ninja Kitty, dude, are you fucking kidding me, Ninja Kitty? You're unusual. Keith has never been to Canada. My freaking wife is born and raised in. I was in Canada like 2 weeks ago. What the hell are you talking about? I've been to Canada more than you, Ninja Kitty. Gee, I've been to free. I've been all over Canada, dude. Dude, if I go to Canada anymore, they're gonna make me a freaking one of the members of the Heart Foundation. Like, dude, I'm like, like the British. They extended to like the British Bulldog, even though he wasn't from Canada. Like, I'm like the American one. I'm like the freaking Southern New England one. Ninja Kitty, get out of here. All right, let's get it. Let's talk about the performances. Obviously, let's talk about Moreno. Just talk to me. I mean, I was so blown away with how good he looked. What stood out to you?
You forget just what a physically gifted guy he is. A guy that big for that division should not be that fast. Like, within the first 2 minutes of the fight, it was obvious that even though he's such a longer, lengthier guy than Albazi, and Albazi's like the little compact, muscular dude, Moreno's hand and foot speed was just on a whole different level. That we normally don't care that much about punch stats, those kind of things, but I think Albazi landed 4 or 5 strikes per round for the first 3 rounds. It was as close to a no-hitter as I can remember between like 2 top 5 guys in a minute. Dev put it well. He said Albazi looked like a late replacement opponent, not a guy on a 6-fight win streak that a lot of people thought was kind of pre-crowned as the next title challenger.
Yeah, like a real contender. And I don't, and we'll get to Albazi's performance in a minute. And I don't think it was. I mean, it was obviously a bad performance, but I don't think this is like a death nail in him because he lost to a superstar.
And he'd been on the shelf for 18 months. He'd had heart surgery.
Yeah,
I mean, who comes back from heart surgery
and then gets your hardest fight, and he gets a 25-minute round fight against Brandon Moreno, where I don't care where you fight. Man, they could have put this in freaking Baghdad, and Brandon Moreno still might be the favorite. Fan favorite. So I thought, Moreno, like one thing that stood out to me was just there was signs in his last couple fights, like decline, like the Royval one, his output was down, his speed looked slow. That wasn't the case. I mean, his speed was fast. And you talk about the Albazi not landing shots. Usually when you get a guy who's not landing or his punch stats are super low for a round, it's when 2 people have a staring contest and they're scared to engage. That wasn't the case. Like Moreno's output was through the roof. Or if you get one where it's such a one-sided affair with the punch counts, it's one guy took the other guy down and he has him mounted, and it's different than a stand-up battle where guys are kind of really in that mid boxing range for the majority. That's which was so impressive. Moreno has so many tools. I mean, his boxing to me was so crisp. I'm going to talk about his right hand because I'm going to save the left hand. The left hand is like, when he dies, cut his arm off, put it in the UFC Hall of Fame. But his right hand, I was so impressed how easily he caught the timing of Albazi 2 minutes in the fight, and every single time Albazi was engaged, I think this is why Albazi had so many. His punch stats so low. He didn't want to throw punches back because he threw a punch back, and Moreno was he was parrying without touching the front hand. It was like usually what happens, you throw a punch, you just kind of 2 ways to parry. You can block with one hand and throw with the other, or which is even more impressive. I shouldn't say more impressive. You kind of lose a little power with it, but a little more fun, I should say, is when you parry with the same one and you kind of almost springboard your hand off of him. Mm-hmm. He was doing that without hitting the hand. He was just sliding and then going right over the top. He threw the right hand right over the jab and was catching the right hand clean over and over again. Now let's move on to the left hand. The left hand, the variety. First, he had that jab. Just anytime he threw the jab, he landed it. And we always know how good the jab is. But his little dip, he just did this little dip just to get off the center line. It's like we have the line between me and Ben right now. It's like if he was right there, he just dip into like my shoulder, like this shoulder right here. He dips right there. He just dipping off, and then the way he was throwing his left, he had three things going, which kind of really got Albazi getting tricked because he either would come with that big, he'd dip and come with the hook, or he would dip and it'd be the short, like 45-degree uppercut that he landed a lot, especially early in the fight. Or he come dipping down and he throw this like this, Mayweather up jab at him. Because he was dipping and throwing from three different like angles, it was like facing a major league pitcher who's like, all right, now he's throwing a curveball, now he's throwing the changeup, now he's throwing a drop curve, and it's like you're just trying to guess the right one, and he couldn't. I was so blown away with that.
It was and he was already had one of the better jabs in the UFC, but it puts him up on that level with people like, Kamaru Usman, at her very best, Rose Namajunas, Robert Whitaker, where the jab alone, like he has enough different angles, speeds, rotations on it that, it's gone from being a tool to being a weapon. And it looked really, really on point tonight. And I don't know how much of that is attributable to, this being, I think, his second full camp at Fortis. Generally speaking, come to Texas. We're great. But and I think Saif Saud is a great coach, and I think Fortis is a great team, but I don't particularly think of him as a jab doctor that you go to. I don't think of him like, Trevor Whitman or Jason Perillo, but between whatever new sparring partners he has there, just the different tutelage, the time to just kind of recover and just feel better in his body, his boxing looked as good as it has in his entire UFC run. He was so on point tonight, and everything flowed off of that. You could see him growing in confidence as the fight went along. I think it was the fourth round, maybe the fifth. I think it was the fourth, where Albazi shot a for real takedown, got in deep on a single leg, stood up with it. And Moreno, he didn't even do the BJ Penn or Jose Aldo, like fight off the takedown while I punch you. He just ignored the takedown and punched Albazi until Albazi let go of his leg. It was just a complete moment of disrespect from one of the nicest guys in the sport. Moreno was in the zone tonight.
Yeah. Let me ask you a question. You go back to like the Royval fight. I'm going to put you in one of these two boxes. Does Moreno's performance make you say, wow, like how good is Brandon Royval? Or do you think it was more of, and the answer is probably somewhere in between. And that's usually always the answer when you put things, two extremes. But is the answer what they talked about the broadcast? He just needed time. He needed time to refresh. He needed to step away from the sport, go to the beach, do whatever he had to do. Like what do you think it is? Is it Brandon Royval is like, holy shit, he's so good? Or
I think it, and obviously it's the cop out to say it's a little of column A, a little of column B, but I think that's appropriate here. Because one, I think Royval is turning from a good and fun fighter to a great fighter at just the right time. He's turning a corner at just the right time. But at the same time, I'd love to see this Brandon Moreno against Brandon Royval.
Absolutely. That's exactly like my comment. Yes, I think Brandon Royval is really good. I think he's shown improvements.
Yeah.
But
now,
does he beat this Brandon Moreno? I don't think so.
To throw out one thing, and I'm going to get a little ahead of ourselves here and jump right to the end, because one of my bulls is Alexandre Pantoja, because he's sitting on his couch in Coconut Creek, Florida, with his feet up on his ottoman going, see, it ain't easy, is it, motherfuckers?
Oh, yeah. Well, Pantoja is somehow he's the champion, but one in the category from underrated fighters because he's so freaking good.
And Pantoja's just going, it's not easy to beat Brandon Moreno, control the pace and the distance against Brandon Moreno for 5 rounds.
And winning fights against Brandon Moreno early in his career, like Pantoja did, impressive, but it was different when he, beat him recently. That said, and this is kind of be like, chill, what are you talking about? Is good Brandon Moreno, top Brandon Moreno, peak Brandon Moreno, is he the best flyweight in the world?
I can't say it just because Pantoja has beaten him 3 different times at 3 very different, like,
Those first 2 are so long ago, though. The one on the one on the
the one
show
on the show, but it
should be
was
like
early in
2.
both their careers.
It should be
Then
like 2
when
and
they
a
were
half.
both on their way up, and then when they were both in or near their prime, it's hard for me to fly in the face of him being 0-3 against the guy that's got the title, but that may just be a matchup thing. Maybe Pantoja will just always kind of have his number. Against the field, yeah, peak Moreno is probably the best flyweight in the world.
Yeah, so basically another way to ask this, like, does any flyweight on planet Earth beat Brandon Moreno tonight? I don't know. I mean, obviously, this is the show. We have to go into the hyperbole a little bit to get some conversations. But if I'm Brandon Moreno's coach or something, like, I'm feeling pretty confident in a match against a guy that you've lost 2-3 times already. Like, yeah, I mean, Brandon Moreno's freaking good. And I think the hardest thing with Brandon Moreno is matchmaking him because, Royval beat him. So Royval kind of deserves a title shot over him. But then Royval recently lost to Pantoja. So it's like, do you really want to run that one back this soon if Pantoja wins? If Asakura wins, it kind of solves so many things. Well, let's talk about Albazi for a second. We've kind of already acknowledged, like, how freaking tough is it coming back, long layoff. When he beat Kai Kara-France, a lot of people thought he lost that fight, but either way, when you go from the Kai Kara-France moment, if he just fought Moreno right away, that's super hard. If you fought him 4 months later or whatever, 3 months later, your normal turnaround, 3 to 5 months, something like that. Okay. But now you have a long layoff. It's in an arena, so that changes things. It's gotten to the point where in front of a crowd changes things. Then, oh yeah, have a heart issue and neck surgery. I mean, could it be a harder matchup for anybody in their first fight back? Could you make the road? It feels
like that's brutal.
The only thing I can think of that is probably to this level where it's like, holy shit, dude, guys, no warm up, is when Dominic Cruz came back and fought TJ Dillashaw for the title.
Yeah, that's the kind of thing you're talking about here.
And
John Jones, Cyril Gane type thing.
Yeah. Okay. How do you feel about Albazi? Does his performance thing change? I mean, because obviously the injuries, you got to wonder. Has this affected him? Did it slow him? That's a big question mark.
There are some positives and some negatives to take away from here. As you just pointed out, Brandon Moreno is a brutal ask to try to knock the rust off against. And while Albazi didn't have any answers tonight and really didn't find any answers between rounds, I did find it heartening that between the fourth or before the fourth and before the fifth round, his corner told him, dude, you're losing. You need to finish this fight. If you don't think you can finish him on the feet, you need to get him to the ground. And to his credit, he sold out harder to take him down in round 4 than he had at any other point during the fight. And then round 5, I don't pretend to know what's going on inside fighters' heads. Obviously, I'm not psychic, but it was so obvious that Albazi would rather get finished by Moreno than just lose timidly. Like even though Moreno was just piecing him up, he was marching forward. He was throwing as hard as he could. He was obviously at least thinking of the takedown. I mean, he was trying to win the fight right up to the very last second. Knowing that he didn't quit is a good sign.
I mean, he was busted up too, and he had opportunities to check out, get a TKO or start saying, like, where you give up, you start circling, you try to, like, you have like a low output kickbox match the rest of the way where you could say, oh, I didn't get stopped, but everybody know, like, you mentally broke and you're just cruising at this point. He didn't. I mean, even to the point where he pointed down at the end in 30 seconds, and it wasn't. I mean, it was a little too long because it was 30 seconds, but it wasn't Gaethje Holloway standing in and slugging up, but it was pretty good exchanges at the end. Like, Moreno said, yeah, all right. Which kind of puts that go back to the Max Holloway where Moreno's way up and says, I'll give you a chance, man.
And here's a question. Moreno at this point Yeah, he got tapped out by Pantoja on Tough a million years ago, but officially, he's never been finished as a pro. Like, I'm trying to remember now. Has he ever even been cleanly knocked down?
Yeah, no, Figueiredo dropped him a couple times.
Okay, that's okay. Yeah, there was that one fight where Figueiredo
But you
dropped him.
fought Figueiredo 4 freaking times, one of the best, hardest
Yeah,
hitters in the history, pound for pound hardest hitters in the history of the sport. Yeah.
yeah. Uh,
And you're still
hit,
on the winning side of that
and
4-fight matchup.
yeah, what a performance, man.
Yeah, I was. Let's get to matchmaking. Oh, we'll start with Albazi because I said how hard it is going to be matchmaking Moreno. What do you want to do with Albazi?
Uh, Albazi needs to regroup, go back to the drawing board, get a bounce back win. So does Steve Erceg. I say let the two of them have it out.
Yeah, I thought about doing Ursay, but I'm like, dude, the guy's lost 2 in a row. Like, you really buried a guy who a lot of people thought should have won the title.
Yeah.
And Albazi, I mean, he's 17-2. He's 31, so he's definitely in his prime. So I'm dropping him down to try to get him a win, but I'm not dropping him down too far. Ulanbekov, Tajir Ulanbekov really deserves a step up in competition. I guess, co-main event of a fight night or like, headlining prelim fight of a good pay-per-view, something like that. Moreno's gonna be tough.
It is. Now, here's the thing. It's going to depend because if Pantoja beats Asakura, the Moreno versus Pantoja 4 is a tough sell. If Asakura beats Pantoja and they don't do an immediate rematch, there's a chance that we get Moreno versus Asakura. If that's not feasible, I say Moreno versus Tatsuro Taira. I'd like to see.
So I thought of Asakura, him fighting Asakura if Asakura loses, because to me it's tough to give Moreno a title shot based on that he did lose to Brandon Royval, and Royval has, he beat Moreno, so he should be ahead of him, and then he went on and won again against Taira. So it's hard to jump him. If Asakura wins, you solve a lot of the problems. The problem is with Pantoja, and he's beating everybody, it's hard to sell. Like we talked about, it's hard to sell a 4th fight with Moreno. It's also hard to sell a Royval fight when we saw Pantoja win that one. And it was competitive, but Pantoja won. But, Royval had moments, and Royval's going to have moments against everybody. So I'm doing Moreno versus Asakura if Asakura loses.
I like that just fine as well.
If Asakura wins, I'm doing Asakura versus Royval.
Okay.
I was like looking through the rankings. I'm like trying to find someone like who hasn't Moreno fought, and he probably wouldn't be thrilled about this because he wants to make steps towards the title. But it's like, dude, you're already at the top and fought everybody above you. I'm giving him Azu Amabayev. Undefeated, you sell that. I put it fight night main event.
Sure. Yeah, sign me up, man.
Oh, Ice Vacant throws out one. George St. Pierre coming back. Yeah, he came back. Yeah, but he came back to fight the guy that was a winnable fight for him.
Yeah, I mean he'd been kind of like watching, and he chose that.
Like I love George St. Pierre. I mean, obviously the guy's as good as anybody's ever been. I got him as the greatest of all time. I got John Jones one. I got him number 2. There's certain things that George St. Pierre did, especially near the end of his career, where he seemed like, and I feel like John Jones is kind of doing a little bit himself, where the fights are more about legacy and what's the thing that could help my legacy most with the least risk.
Yes.
Because when Whitaker became the champion, he suddenly retired again, didn't want Whitaker. He had, people always trying to get the Anderson Silva, George St. Pierre fight. That's one of we talk about fights we never got, and people always will bring up Tony Ferguson versus Habib and a couple other fights, Brock Lesnar and Fedor. And I don't want to go too much on this rabbit hole because that's not what this recap show was for. But George St. Pierre versus Anderson Silva. And honestly, the thing is about it, I think that's a great style. That was a great stylistic matchup for George St. Pierre. I think St. Pierre would have won that fight.
I kind of agree. Like, I look at what several people did to Anderson Silva what I think George St. Pierre could have, just until they got caught. Whether you're talking about Dan Henderson or you're talking about Chael Sonnen, like you're telling me George St. Pierre couldn't do that and just not get tapped out? I think maybe he could have. And it is because of St. Pierre that fight never happened. Like, Anderson Silva, he moved up to 205 anytime the UFC asked. And the whole time he's like, yeah, I'll fight George St. Pierre. I can't cut to 170 anymore, but if you want to come up and get some, I'm here.
Yeah. Yeah. And John Jones versus Anderson Silva never happened, not because of Anderson Silva. And again, I think John Jones would have been a really bad stylistic matchup for Anderson Silva. But again, we gone down a rabbit hole. We still have 12 more fights to talk about. In the co-main event, Rose Namajunas took on Erin Blanchfield. Erin Blanchfield winning a unanimous decision. Shout out to the great Jay Petrie, who had Rose Namajunas in his fantasy league. He had a challenge bet with somebody. I don't remember who it was. Somebody else had Erin Blanchfield, and it was like extra bonus points. I don't remember who that was. Oh, yeah, that was me.
I tell you, man. And here's the thing. I probably should have mentioned this while we were talking about the main event. Obviously, if we wanted to talk about bad judging or bad reffing, we could make it a full hour segment after every single card. But this one in particular, going into the 5th round, they were showing the live odds, and Namajunas was like plus 2,500. And I'm like, what is going on here? I think Namajunas already has 3 rounds in the bag.
Really?
I scored the fight for Namajunas.
Oh, wow. Okay. So you went, I'm assuming, 1st, 2nd, and 4th.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, yeah. I mean, I scored it for Blanchfield. I gave it the last 3, but it comes down to how you scored the 4th. So, yeah, I would totally agree with those odds being off. Just because of that, like I didn't think the 4th round was a clear round. I thought Namajunas had 2 clear rounds. I thought Blanchfield had 2 clear rounds, and then it was a toss-up round. So, before we get into like the X's and O's and everything, same question I started with the last fight. Did the UFC win tonight?
I think this was probably a win-win for the UFC. Like, there was no bad outcome here.
Yeah, if Erin Blanchfield was 32, I'd probably say no. She's 25.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's in this weird sense where Rose Namajunas, she fought 3 times in a year. So it's like, Keith, what are you talking about? She's never been more active as she was this year. I still don't know if she's ever been as motivated. Like I don't know if she's really that motivated.
Talking about Rose?
Yeah.
I thought she looked pretty good tonight.
Oh, she looked great, especially early. Like, she looked great early.
Yeah.
I don't think if you were marketing, I don't think you could put a big push into Rose Namajunas because I feel like she could suddenly retire at any time.
I completely agree. And I'll be happy for her and sad for us if and when it happens. But I agree on that point. I'm sure if you asked Dana, if you asked Sean Shelby, Hunter Campbell in advance, whom they would prefer to win, maybe Blanchfield edges it out, but it's not like either one of them was a disaster.
No. And there's a lot to get people over because obviously you have 3, we talk about the real crossover to other sports type level people, to other sports fans. What I mean, there's 5 or 6 mainstream people in the history of the sport. Connor, Ronda, Brock, a couple other people. I'm not going to go to,
Yeah.
But then you have the next tier down where it's people that I still would consider casual, but the people who say, "Oh yeah, dude, I love you UFC," and they watch like 3 cards a year. But, but they would like pretend to be like they're super into it, and it's like, no, you're not. like when people tell me that I'm a fan, like, well, are you really? And I go, have you ever heard of Sherdog? No. You're not an MMA fan. Like, shut up. Like, not like try to like talk up our website so much, but There's a lot of history with the website. Like, come on, like
Yeah.
real, true MMA fans. And it doesn't have to be positive. You can say negative things about Sherdog. At least know us. You know what I mean?
I mean, Sherdog's been in the business longer than Dana White.
Yeah, exactly. And like again, you could say, "Oh, I don't think Sherdog's that good. I like this website, or I like this Twitter, or I like what." Fine, but you at least know us. If you don't know, like you're not an MMA fan. But no, Namus is in that one where my friend Brian, who watches 3 cards a year, knows who she is. So that's why I think it's hard to get people to that level. There's those people, Dustin Poirier's, Justin Gaethje's, Rose, you know the list. They haven't had that huge, they're not going on the Today Show level celebrity, but they're still like a good tier. So Rose fits in that, but because of how young Blanchfield is, I think it's a good thing for her because you could have someone for another 5, 6, 7 years near the top of the division. I thought both of them had moments that looked really good, but this is to me was the most like we lost Ben. Tale of like Ben, you there?
I'm still here. Not sure what. I'm still here. My camera just quit. That was weird.
Yeah, it's flickered a couple of times throughout the show, so I don't know what's going on. To me, it was just like a tale of 2 fights. The first 2 rounds, I mean, Rose looked like it was like it looked like the Brandon Moreno fight.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I mean, she was tagging her up, she was slipping shots. Her range management was so good. Like, she was doing some things that I loved. I love like Erin Blanchfield would throw a high kick and she would just slide out of the high kick, and Erin put it down, she'd attack because knowing there's like that delay where you're on one foot. And then she was doing this thing where she would back up as Erin kind of charged at her, and then Erin would stop, and she would stop at the same time, and then spring and like catch Erin as soon as she was like ending her. Like when Erin almost had that second, like okay, I can't reach her, and then Rose was kind of hitting her with like 2 punches. Like Rose looked awesome early, where I was like, oh man, Erin's just not the athlete. Like that's just comes down to it. She's just too one-dimensional.
Yeah, and I agree that it was like the Moreno Albazi fight, and that Namajunas made Blanchfield look just clumsy and slow, especially on the feet for the first couple rounds. And it's funny because Gerald, one of our kind of longtime OG listeners, asked in the comments of the preview if it being a 5-round fight changed my pick on it. And I was like, well, if anything, it makes me lean more towards Namajunas because
me too.
Aside from the second Esparza fight, which we're learning was kind of a weird aberration, Namajunas has been basically bulletproof in 5-round fights. Tonight, she got tired. She got tired first. And 1777 memorabilia has given us all kinds of hell in the chat. I think it's a bit of a rough look to say that Namajunas quit. I mean, she was the more tired woman. She's got a decorated grappler, maybe the most decorated grappler in the women's flyweight division right now, on top of her, heavy. Yeah, I agree. The optics weren't great, but yeah, I mean, I guess it's a matter of interpretation. Like I've seen what it looks like when Rose Namajunas doesn't care whether she wins a fight or not. It's called the Esparza fight.
Yeah, and I mean, 1777 memorabilia guy, like he's not even let us finish the point. Like, oh, she looked great. Yeah, up to a certain point, and then she didn't. Like, let us finish. Yeah. Like, it's like going back to like the Patriots versus Falcons Super Bowl. Falcons look great early. They look fantastic. And then they didn't. And that's kind of what happened here. And I think, and Pope kind of put in there, one takedown from Blanchfield, to me, changed the entire fight. Not that she took it down, but she took it down, and then she finally said, she had that confidence, like, there is an avenue to victory. Like, I know the avenue to victory is to get her down, to hold her down, use my, like, superior jiu-jitsu, use my size, but can I get it there? And if you always have the idea what you want to do, but you're not sure if it'll work. Like, I think this is going to work, and then it does. Like, you prove
like
it.
when Rocky cut Ivan Drago in like round 5 after getting his ass kicked. His coach is like, "See, he is a man. He bleeds."
That's kind of what happened.
No, you're right, because Blanchfield knew the route to victory, but it's not like she could be 100% confident in that, having watched Rose's fights, having seen Rose's highlights, even grappling, but to finally get her down and be like, okay, no, wait a minute. This is just like grappling another human being. And by the way, I am bigger and stronger than she is, and I can hold her down, and I can actually put her in threatening positions. I agree. Like the surge in confidence there for Blanchfield probably informed the rest of the fight.
Yeah, and then like her pressure, like she was trying to pressure early, but she was walking into shots, and then late she was pressuring. Like the fourth round, she was pressuring. She was still walking into shots, but there's a reason to do it now. Like you know what the outcome is.
Yeah.
So, it's kind of like when your kid needs they get like a splinter pulled out, and they're like 5, and they're like, "Mommy, don't." And they're like, "Daddy, don't." And you're like, I'm holding it. My wife's trying to pull a splinter out with the tweezers or whatever, or the needle, and I'm holding the hand, and they like, we know what the outcome is. Like we know, no, the ultimate good is I have to pull the splinter out so you don't get an infection. But once your kid understands, it gets out, they can see, they're like, oh, mommy, daddy's not a bad person. Like, and it kind of was happening with Blanchfield. Like she could see what she had to go through, and then the pressure started getting to Namajunas. Namajunas clearly started slowing down. There's no doubt about that, because Blanchfield started landing more. Rose wasn't able to move as much. I mean, her footwork, she started becoming a lot more of a stationary target. And then the confidence built of Blanchfield, and it just became, the ball started rolling. And
yes,
I've always had this thing where I like Blanchfield coming up, but picking someone to be a champion is always tough. We've talked about this a million times. But I was like, her lack of athleticism is a serious issue.
Yeah.
But there's other people that have had a lack of athleticism that have been able to overcome it by just being like a dirt dog, just being mentally strong. And she sold me tonight. She's got a dog in her. I think of like Dracus du Plessis. He's a minus hat, well, he's actually pretty athletic. But you make a point. He's not the most athletic person. Bilal Muhammad's a perfect example. Yeah. But they have something in them. To me, Blanchfield has that something in them. Now, she's a wizard. She gets to fight to the ground. You're in trouble. Like, you can see time and time again. She gets to fight the ground. The round's over. No one gets up over Erin Blanchfield. She takes you down. The round is over. Her ground game is that good. Talk to me.
Yeah. No, that's and you were quicker to get on the Blanchfield Express than I was. Not like I disregarded her as
you always hated her.
Yeah, I always. There's just so much to hate, like this elite grappler with just like this total girl next door personality. Yeah, she's a real pain in the butt. But I agree that whatever her cap is probably going to be defined by her athleticism. But as you've pointed out, if you have the right mentality and the right skill set, you can overcome that. Bilal Muhammad is a good example. Yeah, like even though, again, I scored tonight's fight for Namajunas, and regardless of whether you think she won, it's not like she blew her out. Like, this was a very competitive fight either way, but I'm not down on her potential as a possible future champ here, because she showed me some of the things that she would need to show if she's going to take the title from Valentina Shevchenko, Alexa Grasso type.
Yeah, especially being that she's only 25 years old, she still can improve, especially on her striking. I'm still worried about her athleticism, and I think that's always going to be an issue. I think as she grows, 135 is a really good division for her, because there's, the champions are people who aren't the greatest athletes. Juliana Pena, before her, Raquel Pennington. Those two, if she put some weight on, very winnable fights for her. It's tough. If it seems like Valentina Shevchenko is probably going to fight Manon Farah. It hasn't been announced yet, but that's the logical road. If that match was booked and it was coming up a month from now, 2 months from now, I'd probably say, Blanchfield, sit in silence, just fight the winner. Especially if it's Shevchenko. Like, you got to be she's kind of fought everybody. Being that hasn't been announced, and who knows how long it's going to be until that's announced, I think she had the proper call out. She called out Alexa Grasso. I think that's a good style of matching for her based on what we just saw Shevchenko do. Even the Shevchenko, the draw was wrestle heavy, take her down, hold it down. I don't think Blanchfield is the wrestler that Shevchenko is. And I won't say this often about Shevchenko because I think the world of her ground game. Blanchfield's even better on top.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, you put Blanchfield and Shevchenko in a straight grappling match.
Yeah.
I'm not sure who wins, even if I'd be pretty confident picking Shevchenko over in an MMA fight right now. No, I like the call out as well. Like I stopped thinking about it when she called out Grasso. I just put Grasso down as my next matchup for her.
All right. Rose comes up to you, whether the Supreme boss is, she doesn't have a say. What are you doing with her?
I'm looking at the Tracy Cortez versus Miranda Maverick fight that's in about 5 weeks. I'm probably giving her the loser of that fight, but if the winner is the only one that's capable, is not on met, you know what I mean? Like if the loser has a broken orbital or something that's going to leave him on the shelf for 6 months, then I'd give her the winner. I'm giving her one of those two, Cortez or Maverick. Because here's the thing, Namajunas lost, but she's still a former champ, which means as long as she's around, she's never going to be completely out of sight of a title shot. And again, it's not like she lost bad. MMA Decisions decided to take the night off tonight. He's in Canada, so maybe he was worried it was going to be a depressing night. I don't know. But so I can't say what the media scores were like, but yeah, Namajunas was very competitive against somebody that we're talking about maybe being in line for a title shot. So I don't think she should fall too far.
And obviously it's not cool for MMA Decisions taking it off because me and you never do. I mean, that's one thing about us. We are consistent. We are for the people, always working for the people. Obviously I'm joking. So this is going on the Supreme ruler. No one, Rose doesn't have a chance. I say Rose. Like it was cool that you went up to 125. You got 2 wins over the current champion at 115. Name value, it's her and you. Yeah, there's some tough matchups, Tatiana Suarez and Jandiroba and this and that. But
does Tatiana Suarez ever fight again?
No, I don't know.
Like she just pulled a
I know. She might go down as one of these what ifs, biggest one. I mean, she already is kind of one of the biggest what ifs, but I'm sending her back to 150. I'm getting her a win, or I'm putting her against the winner of Jillian Robinson and Luana Pinheiro. Like I'm getting her a win.
You sure are. And hey, it's not like either of them will turn that fight down. No.
I mean, much as we joke, like if Jillian Robinson wins, she deserves a name like that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
and that's the kind of what I would do. You're just so you know, your camera still like keeps flitching for some reason. It's fine now, but every once in a while it just flitches.
Maybe it's coming unplugged. I'll figure it out after the show.
Okay. A lot of these fights will probably go a lot quicker.
Yeah.
The next fight, Bretson Haber versus Kai Machado, with Haber winning a split decision. The reason why this fight was third from the top, and I know the Derek Lewis fight was originally, but this was third from the top was because, well, these guys are big, strong guys who knock everybody out. This will be a knockout. This is what they want. And then we had a absolute ugly kickboxing match that nobody gets knocked out. These guys are bad. Both of them.
They are bad. They are bad. And while I disagreed with the decision, I scored it for Machado. If I could have let both guys lose, I would have.
I scored it for Machado too. But again, I don't care. It was so like whatever.
It was so bad.
I could see the argument for Haber too, but whatever.
And the thing is, Machado came down, and for what it's worth, physically he looked great. For a guy that weighed in like 248 pounds for his last fight, he looked lean.
Yes, he did.
He looked like he dropped weight the right way. So credit to him for that. But he also looked like he couldn't fight. Like this was some of the ugliest striking that I've seen at the UFC level in a minute. Like just coming in head down, just swinging. Oh. It was terrible.
But how about when they were just like throwing strikes and not hitting? They were throwing, both of them were throwing combinations and not hit anything.
Yeah, it was.
There was one where they were right
like,
next to each other, swinging, and nothing.
Yeah, it was a Caitlin Sermonara mirror match.
Yeah, and it wasn't like the reason why they didn't land was this superior defense. Like that wasn't the case. It looked like two guys shadow boxing, but in like a close are where in like like an embedded or even like the behind the scenes fight night in the locker room warming up and they're like right next to each other. Like this, they're not meaning to hit each other because they're like light sparring where we're throwing, but we're not going to actually hit each other. Because you had Haber throwing, I don't know, a whole bunch of punches that just swung and hit air. And then you had Machado just keep throwing kicks that was blocked over and over again,
And here, bringing up something that 1777 memorabilia is mentioning, in fairness, and this is one of the first pieces of wisdom I ever picked up from Jack Slack a million years ago, but when he said, when it looks like one fighter is running for most of the fight, or especially when one fighter accuses another of running, like think Henderson versus Machida or Nick Diaz versus Carlos Condit, it's usually because the other fighter's not good at cutting the cage off. Like, it is a 24 or 30-foot octagon. Unless I full on turn my back on you and run away like Caleb Starnes, it should not be possible for me to stay away from you if you know how to cut off the cage.
Yeah. Like they go, I mean, they mentioned it during the broadcast, Ilya Topuria. They talked about, and Haber should never be compared to Ilya Topuria, but you've never seen Ilya Topuria complain about people run. And I'm assuming everybody wants to run from that guy.
Oh my goodness. I'm running from Ilya Topuria right now. Yeah. I'm on a treadmill.
Yeah, like he just walks forward you down like he's freaking like like freaking Halloween. What's his name? Michael Myers.
Yeah.
Oh, Ben, I gotta do this. This is gonna be so unprofessional, but I know you. This is the best Halloween joke of all time.
All right.
This is right, dude. You're gonna like this. I'm gonna like this. Nobody else is gonna like this. All right. Knock knock.
Who's there?
Ow.
Ow who?
Werewolves of London.
Boo. Boo.
And everyone else is
feel bad about yourself. That is, oh my goodness.
Ow. Werewolves of London. And everybody else in the chat is like, what the hell are they talking about?
Oh my goodness. Wow.
Juice is old enough. He likes it.
Yeah.
He's old enough. The rest of them are like, what the hell are they doing? They don't get it.
Goodness.
I'm watching these guys and I'm like, dude, both guys could just make the smallest adjustment. One, like you talked about Haber cutting the cage off, but also like just fainting a little when he got like close, faint a little bit to get Machado to bring his hands up, and while he's bringing his hands up, close the distance and then get inside and land some shots. And then Machado, how about throwing a fucking teep kick? You keep throwing outside kicks over and over again. He just keeps blocking. Throw one right at the middle.
Yeah, it was such an ugly fight. Like it was so bad. That's about all I can say. It was
so bad that I wanted to tell a knock knock joke in the middle of it. Like I'd rather tell the same knock knock joke again. I'll give you one more. Let me give you one more. I'm gonna give you another one joke. Can I do one more? Actually, this one's even worse. What's Michael Jackson's favorite fast food joint?
What?
KFC.
If I disappear again, it's not because my camera's broke.
Okay, I'm sorry. Leave the jokes to Brian Regan. All right.
Oh my goodness.
Here you go. I give you guys all permission to tell that jokes to somebody. Before that, Ariane Lipsky da Silva took on Jasmine Jasovicius, with Jasmine Jasovicius winning by third round sub. Dude, we've both been backing Jasmine Jasovicius hard. I'm completely sold.
I'm sold, and I've finally got my comparison for her. I figured out who Jasmine Jasovicius is in terms of what she brings to the fight. She is women's flyweight John Fitch. She's not the best athlete, but she's big for the division. She knows what she's good at. She's
she crazy shit on Twitter.
Only the in-cage product.
Okay, yeah. Well, listen, he's not Jake Shields, but
Yeah. He's not quite as crazy as Jake Shields, but yeah, he got into.
He's had moments.
He's had moments, but in the cage, and underratedly dogged in the pursuit of the finish. It's not like John Fitch wasn't trying to finish people. If you didn't know what you were doing on the ground and you gave him 10 minutes to work on you across the space of 3 rounds, there's a chance he's going to choke you out, or at least leave you looking like you've been run over by a truck. And you were talking before about people that achieve big things in the sport despite a lack of standout athleticism. That's Jasmine Jasdavicius. That was John Fitch. She's kind of like, women's flyweight John Fitch to me.
Yeah, so I still have concern because she's definitely she's not as great athlete. She keeps her chin high in the air. She throws a lot of arm punches. She's not technically sound at all. So there's a lot of things I don't like about her. And I don't know if she has that where if someone's so much more athletic. Like I go back to the Tracy Cortez where she just struggled the speed of Tracy Cortez. Natalia Silva, I mean, that's a loss that hasn't, has aged well, I should say. I want to see when she's clearly overmatched on paper and then win. If she can win a fight where she's clearly overmatched, then so I'm sold. I'm not like 100% completely sold, but I will say this: not many females can wrestle. And I don't mean that as an insult. It's not a background. Like it's a newer sport.
There isn't the robust amateur system.
It's the fastest growing sport in America. I don't know about the world, but in America, and I expect it to continue to grow. And I definitely think like a decade from now, you'll see a lot of wrestlers, and then you could have anti-wrestlers, and you could have a whole movement like we've seen in men's MMA. But right now, not many females can wrestle. She can wrestle. She likes that. Like she runs the pipe, and then she controls super well. I think she's a serious stylistic matchup for a lot of people.
Well, I'm glad you said that because we were just talking about, Erin Blanchfield and Rose Namajunas, and we're talking about Erin Blanchfield maybe still having a route to a title. But at the same time, if she fought Jasmine Jasdavicius next and just got totally neutralized, would you be that shocked?
No, but if you could give me Jasmine's wrestling with Blanchfield's top control, champion.
Yep.
Absolute champion. Like no one's beating him.
Yeah.
So I think she needs to step up. And I'm going to give her a step up. And you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to give her maybe the hardest stylistic matchup. Because I want to see when she's matched against somebody who's better than her, more athletic, which this person's not some great athlete, but I just think about someone who's intelligent, who's smart, who frustrates people.
I don't think we have the same person, but I'm interested in what you have.
All the things that she does to people, can she overcome that? Give me Caitlin Chikagian.
Oh, I don't hate that at all. I had down Macy Barber, but
I think she might be. No, I don't know. I might be living in the moment. I don't know if she'd beat Macy, but she could. It's not a wrong person.
It'd be interesting.
It'd be interesting. I'd have to look deep into that fight.
Macy, and I'd like to see her against
Macy's like what we got with Zalal, where people jumped off the bandwagon and then people forgot how young she was. And in the whole, I'm going to be the youngest champion thing kind of got blew up in her face. But yeah, it's like she's another example. Don't quit on someone too early.
Yes.
What do you got? What do you got for Jasdavicius?
I had Barber.
Oh, I'm sorry. I thought you were saying that's who you thought I was picking.
No, I said Barber.
They're
both on long win streaks.
Right.
Yeah, they're both on some win streaks at this point. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think Barber would take that fight. I know but that's not how we do it, but I think
but if I'm the king of the world,
yeah,
taking it. Yeah.
Before that, Marc-Andre Berrio versus Dustin Stoltze. So Stoltze was winning by first round TKO. This was a bad night for the Canadian Marc-Andre Berrio. From the very get-go, when the guy slips 10 seconds into the fight, the bad luck for this guy. And then he Yeah, he's got to fight off submissions. He gets to his feet, brawls, and gets starched. Like, just not a good night.
Really, that's about all there is to say. Well, I did tweet that his name should be Marc-Andre Berrio now.
That's 2 fights in a row. He got
Yeah.
starched, and he needs to have a durability, like, because the way he fights, he has to be durable.
Yes. Absolutely. And
Just keep talking. We can hear.
yeah.
There you go.
Well, one thing I'll say, considering that one of these guys used to fight at light heavyweight and the other one used to fight at welterweight, and we're talking about not that long ago, Stoltze has grown into a real for real legit 185 pounder body. Like, he looked big tonight, and obviously he was strong as hell.
And Berrio's a big dude himself. Like, he's a big,
Yeah.
burly, strong guy. I'll say this: like, Stoltze, I think we both picked Stoltze, right? In the underdog pick.
Oh my goodness. No, yeah. I took Berrio.
Are you sure? I swear, I thought it was one of our consensus underdog picks. Just go with me with it. Just go with me with it. Who cares?
I wish I had, because, dude, anyone who slaps on a 3/4 Nelson in MMA, like, it instantly wins points with me.
Just say you did, and then if anybody said Ben, no, you didn't. Just quickly go over there, edit the final thing, and say, "What are you talking about?" Look.
Oh yeah, yeah. I went 14 for 14. I even picked Derek Lewis to withdraw from the feature fight.
I think he's slightly underrated, but I'll say this, dude. He's fun. I mean, he's like live by the sword, die by the sword. Either knocks you out spectacular, he gets knocked out himself. Like, he's not going to make a run or anything like that, but he's fun. I'm a Stoltze fan.
Yeah. Oh, it's good to have him around.
Yeah. I want to go back a little bit. Bob Simpson mentioned a cool, fun fact. And I saw Aaron Bronstetter, who I really think is, like, from mainstream guys, is as he might be the best. But he mentioned that Machado somehow has landed 76 significant strikes in 3 straight UFC fights. What are the odds of that?
That is straight. Like, so does he stop when he gets to 76? Is that our problem?
Like, yeah, and they were in Canada, so they would probably, like, use some, like, weird metric system to get up those numbers. So who knows?
Hey, and Aaron is Canadian too. What a good dude.
He is Canadian. That is true. He is my favorite Canadian. Speaking of Canadians, before that, Mike Malott versus Trevin Giles. I made a mistake. I thought maybe he was just taking, like, a leave of absence. Trevin Giles is still a police officer, so I will be picking him moving forward. But he's not good.
Who, Trevin?
Trevin's not good.
Well, here's the thing.
He has this weird strategy that he's like, I want to win a fist fight without throwing fists.
I can't argue it. I picked him to lose this fight. You know that it's difficult for me to pick against people I know, but he might be one of the biggest underachievers in modern MMA. He has the skills to be a top 15 fighter. I think he probably had the skills to be a top 15 fighter at 170 or 185. And instead he's cruising right around 500 in the UFC.
Oh.
And one of two things happens. Either he looks great and then just gets blown up because he has durability and defense issues, or he fights conservatively like this and he just, he doesn't perform. It's, yeah.
I mean,
like you say, he's not good, and I can't disagree with that, but I think it's oversimplifying a little bit. He should be good, and he isn't.
Yeah, you said he cruises. The only thing he might be cruising is in the patrol car on third shift in Houston, because I wouldn't be surprised the last we see him in the UFC. I apologize who tweeted this when I was talking about him, and he said one thing about Giles is his durability has been an issue. And he's like, he needs to find the balance where he's controlled, but he has more output, but he doesn't hit the point where he starts getting reckless. And then that's when he gets caught. If he can find that in between, he's solid. The problem is it'd be like a basketball coach saying, "Yeah, man, I can't understand why we're losing all the time, and we're only scoring 20 points." You're like, well, "How about you shoot the ball more? like,
Yeah.
see the basket over there? Shoot at it." Like to me, this was such a winnable fight for him. Like I'm watching these two, and I'm like, Trevor Giles is better than Malott. He just not let his hands go, dude.
Yeah.
He had no urgency. It's like, dude, I don't know. I don't get it.
And if there was any night for him to kind of shine, this was it, because Malott is a similar guy, an athletic, powerful, offensively gifted guy who has defensive lapses or has durability issues. Like Giles could have done to Malott tonight what a lot of people do to Giles, and he didn't. And it was a competitive fight, but that's it. You know, he lost again, and we'll see where he ends up.
Yeah, it's funny. I'm watching this fight, and it's just a jab of Giles versus the kicks him a lot. And I remember when I was like fighting MMA like a gazillion years ago, but we'd have like bag sessions, and then we'd scream out like just a jab, and all you threw was a jab for like 2 minutes straight. You threw a jab to the body, jab, up jab, you slip jab, you do everything in jab. Then you're like, all right, just right hooks. Like I felt like that's what we had going on. like his Giles corner screaming like just jabs. Like Malott's like can only throw kicks. So that was like pretty much the whole fight. It's like guys, nobody open up with anything else. Malott really had his back against the wall, and that's not fair for a guy who's kind of like, you know, we've already established he's not an up and comer, but like, you know, new kid on the block with some buzz. Yeah. Lost Emil Magny. He really needed a win, and this was definitely a bounce back fight for him. Like the setup, like it was a step down in competition, but it's not like we've talked about. Giles can be a tricky opponent, but he passed the test. But like, I don't think his stock rose. Like, I don't think anybody's like excited about Malott. If anything, I think his stock might have dropped a little bit.
Yeah, I'm there. Well, certainly if they're evaluating him for future marquee placements on cards, like I didn't see anything tonight that makes me want to put Giles in a fight night main event in Canada.
No, and he's the you know the great Canadian hope, and that's definitely a scene that's really dying for somebody. Like it's been a long time since they've had a top guy. I'm giving him the shot. I'm giving him, you know, get him back in Canada the next, you know, I don't know what the schedule is, but like, you know, if they say they fought 5 months from now in Montreal or Calgary or wherever, Ottawa or some shit, I get him in the co-main event. I'll put him against Stephen Thompson.
Oh, okay. I like that just fine. I think maybe even this version of Stephen Thompson might give Malott some serious problems.
I think Stephen Thompson would have beat him bad tonight.
Well, yeah, because neither of these guys really push the issue, and if you don't push the issue against Stephen Thompson, he's going to win every round against you.
Yeah, that's the worst guy. yeah. He would. When he was saying Stephen Thompson styling and he's feeling himself, forget it. You're in trouble.
Yeah.
But styles make fights, and you fight Giles differently than you fight Stephen Thompson. So. But yeah,
I like that just fine. I was going to put him against the winner of Nicholas Dalby and Eliseo Zaleski dos Santos that are fighting in a month or so.
You know what's funny? No, they're fighting this week, aren't they?
Or they're this coming weekend, aren't they? Yeah.
I should hope so. But do a tape study on my show. So while those guys aren't ranked, and they fight differently, but like Nicholas Dalby's
a terrible matchup for Malott.
Yeah, like I'd rather have if I'm manager of Malott and he's like, dude, I really want another bounce back fight, easier fight. And they're like, hey, UFC just called and they said Nicholas Dalby or ranked Stephen Thompson. Most people are like, well, I'll take Dalby. Like, if you want the easier bounce, I'm like, dude, you're better off taking Thompson.
Yeah,
I think, not that that's an easy fight either, but I don't know. I'm not feeling good about Malott, even though he got a big win. Before that, Pedro Munoz took on Eamon Zahabi. I will say this fight was much better than I expected. It was a fun fight.
Yeah, completely agree. Eamon Zahabi is more entertaining than you would think he would be, and this was a case of that. Yeah, it was a pretty good fight. Pedro Munoz, for a guy that he doesn't really get cut wide open and just start bleeding all over the place, he shows the damage he takes faster than almost any other high-level fighter I can think of. Just a couple jabs, and he got raccoon eyes on both eyes, just busted up, swollen. Yeah, he looks like he's been 8 rounds after he's been 1.
To his credit, he fought like Haber should have. If Haber fought like Munoz, and again, I know it's not fair to compare 135-pound Munoz to he's 100. No, 135. Yeah, 135-pound Munoz to 205 Haber. I know it's not fair, but that eat a shot to keep moving forward to land shots. Haber would have knocked Machado into next week.
Yes,
he would have had a first round spectacular knockout. Munoz has good volume, and forcing Zahabi to move back a lot had those moments of good optics for him, but his lack of power, he needs to hit a little bit harder than he does, and that was a big thing. And Zahabi, the volume was there. I mean, the volume was really good for Munoz. Mm-hmm. Just Zahabi was crisp, man. This is 5 wins in a row, dude.
And it's really come out of nowhere because, again, we thought we'd read.
36.
He's 36. For the most part, until very recently, he'd fought once a year, if that. When you have a 5-fight win streak that stretches over 7 years, it's easy to forget who you are. But
plus, he's Canadian, so how excited can you get?
Dude, he's looking legit, and it's really come out of nowhere. And yeah, I think he's earned a ranked, or at least ranked type opponent. He's earned a marquee matchup.
Yeah, I agree. And I mean, he was good. I mean, he was throwing hard punches, nice and crisp. He was cutting angles well. His defense was good. I mean, he was busting up Munoz with the jab. You said he needs a better opponent, a ranked opponent. Let's hear it.
I'm giving him either Chris Gutierrez or Rob Font.
Oh, I don't hate either one of those, especially with 5 fights. I wrote down Montel Jackson, which I think is a really tough stylist man. I think both guys kind of deserve a marquee fight. I was putting them on a pay-per-view opener.
Here's the thing, man. He's on a 5-fight win streak, but it's not just that he's won 5 fights in a row in maybe the deepest division in the UFC, but he's beating good guys. Ricky Turcios and Alrici Lang are both decent fighters. And then Javid Basharat and Pedro Munoz are both good fighters. And yeah.
Yeah. I mean, the Basharat one, that's the one where it's there was still some question marks, yeah, I mean, okay, he beat this guy, beat that guy. But once you beat Basharat, it's whoa. And then it was wow, did we overrate Basharat? Is Zahabi really that good? And there'll still be question marks about Zahabi. People say,
Munoz is shot.
Look at his record recently, and this, and I think there's some truth to that. There's some, but I mean, there is something about winning. It's when we talk about Dricus du Plessis, and I know this is not the case because Zahabi is really good, but it's like the Kansas City Chiefs right now. Nobody likes Chiefs. Mahomes doesn't look good, but they just keep winning. And you're sometimes you'll be yeah, but they just keep winning.
And on some level, in the back of their minds, everybody's well, I mean, as long as they at least make the playoffs, we know what's going to happen.
Oh yeah.
They're going to flip a swwitch, and
flip a switch, and then they'll get some bogus holding calls in the Super Bowl and shit. And Taylor Swift will call down her gods, and that'll put a curse on the other team. So, So Munoz and Zahabi, we kind of thought might be a boring fight, ended up being a fun fight. The fight we knew that was not going to be boring was Charles Jourdain versus Victor Henry. Charles Jourdain winning by 2nd round sub. I mean, this fight is exactly what we expected, and it delivered. Jourdain will never be in that BMF discussion, but he has that BMF style where it's entertaining before winning.
Yeah, and the thing is, it was a pretty close fight where both guys were having their moments. Like, honestly,
It was
Henry
fun.
it was a lot of fun. Henry did not look bad at all.
No.
And then committed a huge blunder. Like,
Yeah.
letting, basically, I know it's possible, but I've never seen a guillotine finish that way in MMA, at least not high level MMA. Maybe I've seen it in some like pseudo smoker here in Houston, but where basically the only reason it worked is that Henry's legs were trapped behind Jourdain's because he was going for a double leg and it started to turn the corner. Jourdain jumps to the guillotine and Henry's legs are still stuck behind him. Yeah.
I'm sure Dustin Poirier hits that one all the time in the gym. I'm sure he gets everybody with it. I mean, Jourdain looked fast. I mean, is his debut at 135. He looked good. Like, that's not like, he's not old, but he's not super young. Moving down a weight, that's usually not a good thing. He looked. I mean, again, it's Victor Henry. It is what but that's a good win. Like, I think Victor Henry's good. I think Henry had moments, and it was like a momentum swing where Jourdain won the first round, was doing well. Henry started being able to close the distance, get inside, kind of fighting more in his range, or the momentum was starting to go Henry. He's got a couple takedowns. I felt like, okay, this is where Henry starts, like, he's found his range. He's doing good. And then Jourdain was, nope, good night. I mean, it was super fun.
That's about the only way to put it. And for a guy named Jourdain, who throws a lot of flying stuff, he now has more subs than knockouts in the UFC, and his submission game it's just as kind of quick strike and dazzling in its own way as his striking. He's going to be a fun guy to have at 135. Like, I'm already just like thinking about possible matchups for him going forward. Like, not immediate now, but just,
Sure.
dude, if he keeps winning, or at least wins 2, loses 1, there's so many bantamweights I'd love to see him against.
His guillotine is like when you have like a mouse, and obviously I'm not talking about Demetrius Johnson and what he did to Ray Borg, but the mouse trap where you have a mouse on a mouse trap, and they try, like, you put like peanut butter and they're like licking everything's going good, and in an instant they're dead.
Oh,
the brain is splattered, and that's his guillotine. It's so slick. Before that, criminal that this fight wasn't much higher in the card, but Jack Shaw took on Zalal. Zalal winning by second round sub. Dude, talk about a guy, and you mentioned it in the Sherdog Slack about, comeback fighter and all this. Like, what a fucking resurgence of a career. And we talked about Erin Blanchfield that someone don't give up on, and Macy Barber, and one of these, because of their age. Joussius Zalal is like exhibit A.
He was cut from the UFC on 3 losses and a draw, like an 0-3-1 run. He went and won a couple fights.
One of them to the current champion.
Yeah, one to the current champion, and another one, again, like, split decision loss to Sean Woodson, a draw against Damon Blackshear. Like, good guys.
Stud, 3 studs in a row.
Yep. He comes back. He is 3-0 with 3 finishes. Yeah, I put him on the ballot for Sherdog's Comeback Fighter of the Year. That's what it's all about. And again, I'm beating this to death, and we're to the point where I probably won't even bother saying it anymore after the first of the year. But other guys from Factory X were saying, wait until Zalal gets back to the UFC. He's killing all of us in the gym. And we're talking about ranked or rankable UFC fighters are like, you won't believe how good Zalal is. And at this time, at least, there was fire where there was smoke. Zalal looks fantastic, and he's a fun guy to have in the UFC. Like, he's just so happy and excited about what's going. And he was his first time around too. He just has this kind of infectious enthusiasm where he's cocky, obviously, and these guys should be cocky. You should be confident. You're among the best in the world at what you do, but it's mostly about having fun and seeing what he can do and entertaining the crowd than really having fun at the expense of his opponent. Like, it's rare that you hear him have any shit to talk about his opponents. He just goes,
and he's good.
Runs game on him, and he's like, "Did you see that? Wasn't that great?" Dude, how could you not love that? Yeah,
they just stopped Jack Shaw. I mean, dude, I had to mention the step in knee. Like, he stepped in time. Jack Shaw's entry, good, drops him.
Yeah.
And dude is so slick with the grappling. I mean, his grappling is freaking good. Like, And he's so young, and he's. I mean, I'm not like he said, "Oh, I want ranked opponents and this and that," and I'm not saying he's gonna be a champion or anything because it's so hard, but like I could see this guy like be rising up and becoming a main eventer type level guy.
Mm-hmm.
He's good. What do you want to do with him?
I don't want to rush him into a fight with a ranked guy. This is one of the divisions that has the luxury of a ton of good fighters that aren't in the top 15. So why rush him along? Why I give him another guy that's on a hot streak as well, kind of unexpectedly. I said give him Steve Garcia.
Oh, that's your boy. You'd be so upset. One of them would have to lose.
Dude, I wouldn't even hate if they booked him in a rematch with Sean Woodson. I thought the first fight was pretty cool. But no, yeah, like I put down Steve Garcia just as a guy who's on like a 4-fight win streak. Likes Zalal seemed to come out of nowhere and is finishing people. Only he's knocking them out, and all of a sudden, Zalal, the Moroccan kickboxer, is tapping everyone out on the ground.
I'm going much higher name value, maybe not in stylistic matchup. Like, might not be hard to stylistic, but I'm going much higher name value. I'm putting him in a co-main event of a fight night against Edson Barboza.
Oh.
Why not? All right. Before that, oh God, Alexander Romanov took on Rodrigo Nascimento. This fight was so bad. Rodrigo Nascimento was terrible. Romanov, guys, I love wrestling. NCAA wrestling started Thursday night. Really kind of kicked off this weekend. I watch so much wrestling. I'm watching, and I watched tons of MMA. I'm watching the fight. I'm sitting there and I'm doing stuff. I'm already taking notes for the recap show, catching up on the previous fight's notes. And Romanov takes down Nascimento, and he just got his arms wrapped around his stomach. I'm on top, and I go, I yell to the TV, he's locking hands. And then I go, oh, wait, yeah, what do I need? He can do that. What doesn't matter to me, because he just holds on and stalls, doesn't do shit. And then Nascimento has no output, in a fight where Romanov is gassed, the guy who's classically known to gas, in Nascimento is just as gas. He's not throwing anything, no urgency. Like, this fight sucked.
It was terrible. And yeah, I thought we had the book written on Romanov. He's a strong wrestler, gasses out too quickly. And when he gasses out, all the wheels fall off the wagon. Well, we found a way that he can make it to the end of a 15-minute fight without gassing out. It's if his opponent does almost nothing. And I mean, we've talked about this before. I've said this. It's much easier to have 3 or 5 rounds of cardio if your opponent isn't making you move when you don't want to. This was the definition of that. Nascimento just never made Romanov uncomfortable. It was terrible.
I know, dude. I know Romanov has a good idea. Ninja Kitty's done one his record in the UFC, and he's good. I just like the record's good. I just don't think he's good. He's good at knowing what he has to do to win, but it's so boring. And like, I don't know. I look at the guy, and he's fat, and you ever watch that movie Click with Adam Sandler?
Yep.
Do you remember when he was like fat, and then he got skinny, but he still had the fat, so he was playing with his flap?
Yep.
His flap is like hanging down. Like, that's what I like. I look at Romanov like standing in the corner. He looks like Adam Sandler with the flap hanging, like his fat rolls hanging over. Dude, it's funny because at the weigh-ins, like ceremony weigh-ins, I'm like, wow, he looks like he lost some weight. Then I saw him today. I'm like, no, he's just as fat. Like, what did he eat from yesterday to today? Like, he looked like this guy is a good wrestler. He looks like he ate Bo Nickel. Like. Like, I didn't want to talk about the fight. I just want to, like, and listen, dude, I'm not Tybo over here, but I don't know, dude. It's fat. It's just, I don't know.
And he knows it, because
when so good. If
he was winning on his way up, like I said it before, he dropped like 35 pounds. He went from 260, 264, 260, 237, 239, like, he became a guy that didn't have to cut weight in the sauna for a minute. And I think he would have been better off sticking around 240, but he's back up.
Yeah, Ben Cooley's talking about how strong he is. Yeah, I
Of
mean,
course he's strong. He's a
yeah, he's
260-pound
strong.
former Greco-Roman wrestler. He's strong as an
Yeah,
ox. It should take more than that to be a top 15 fighter in the UFC.
that's because the reason why he's strong because he comes to his house every day with the big freaking meat that knocked over the Flintstone truck. Like that's his dinner every night, carrying in that big freaking dinosaur bone. I don't know. I don't know. No, he's not Cole Conrad. Get on, do an insult to Cole Conrad.
Cole Conrad was a great wrestler.
Yes, he was national champion.
Cole Conrad, yes, jiggly, but right now,
that's true.
Now, Cole Conrad would thrash Alexander Romanov in an MMA fight.
Yeah,
Yeah.
So I mean, I'm a little biased to him, but I've talked about this before. Steve Mocco is a multi-time NCAA champion. He was the Hodge Trophy winner. I mean, he's like 49 years old, but like my son's wrestling team and like our head coach is very like super close friends with him. His team comes up to our team. Guys from our team would go down to Florida and train with their team. Like there's a connection. He comes up like 4 times a year. But his son, who's incredible high school wrestler, like I think he might have just committed somewhere. I don't remember, but he's like incredible, like Iowa or something. Like he's incredible. He could legit win a national championship in the NCAA. I mean, his dad's Steve Mocco. But my point is, I think Steve Mocco to beat Romanov right now.
Yeah,
and he's not in shape, and he's in shape, but like he's not in his peak wrestling shape and stuff. I don't know. I'm not a Romanov fan.
if not for Steve Mocco and Cole Conrad, Cain Velasquez would probably have an NCAA title right now.
That's true.
Anyway,
that's true. Before that, Garrett. Dude, first of all, can we talk about Cain Velasquez? I know, like, I never followed the story too much into the details. Did his story with his daughter? That is fucking terrible. Anyways, moving on. I just want to say that, like, I understand that we have laws and you can't chase down people and shoot at them, and I understand that, but if anybody's ever been justified. Before that, Garrett Armfield took on Serhi City, winning a split decision. I scored at 29-28 for Armfield.
So did I.
But I don't see the outrage that it was. Like even City said they thought he lost, which was kind of
the looks on their faces.
It was kind of commendable. No, he said it in the post fight. Like he talked. He's like, yeah, I thought he lost. I don't think it was. I mean, I think there was arguments for him winning the first 2 rounds. I didn't score the first 2 rounds for him. I remember giving Armfield the third, and I think I gave Armfield the first.
Jay Tyler and I for Sherdog gave Armfield the second and third. But
okay, that's probably how I did it then. I probably gave City the first.
I scored it for Armfield, but I'm not up in arms about it, especially tonight. There were so many worse scorecards. You have to. I mean, it's like worrying about your gutters needing a cleaning while your house is on fire. Yeah, it wasn't a great decision, but it wasn't the main problem tonight.
Yeah, and I saw a lot of people saying that. I saw that in chat saying that City got robbed in his debut, so he deserved to win this one. Yeah, but you know what? Armfield didn't rob him. You know what I mean? Like
you don't need to pay it forward.
Yeah, like if Ben breaks into my house, that doesn't mean I can break into Joussius's house. Like that's not how it works.
Well, his house is in Alaska, so you better have some good stuff.
So I thought it was actually a pretty fun fight. It was like Armfield's boxing versus City's like kickboxing. I wonder about the third because for a big majority of the fight, City was doing pretty well defending takedowns, but then his corner told him he was down 2-0, which I don't think was the case. I thought it was 1-1.
Yeah, same.
And then he's getting takedown instead of running back to his feet. He's tossing up submissions. He's jumping. He's holding on to guillotines. All the things he's like trying to win the fight. And I'm sitting there and I'm like, did his corner sandbag without him knowing? Because he's fighting to. He's not fighting to win a round. He's fighting to end the fight.
Yeah, it was interesting.
Which I'm on the record that I'm not a live scoring guy. I think there's some fun to the not knowing the score. I think there's benefits when someone knows they're winning in certain sports. It happens in wrestling. You wrestle differently. You start wrestling for the clock. I think overall the not knowing the score benefits the sport and the action. In this case, it's one of those. It'll never be perfect, but in this case, open scoring might have benefited City. I mean, he ended up winning split decision anyways, but we both scored at Armfield.
Yeah.
Obviously, we both scored Cody Gibson over Chad and Helliger because this was a friggin' wrestling clinic.
Gibson has been a fun story ever since he's been back. I mean, he was a fun fighter the first time around. This time, still a fun fighter, impossibly youthful looking for a guy who's 37 or 38. And just the story of him basically being like a junior high gym teacher or something and putting that on hold and moving to Vegas to give this a shot. It's an inspiring story. It sounds like the plot of a movie. But we both picked Gibson. I expected this to be a nip and tuck thing. Sure. Instead, Gibson put on an absolute clinic. And while I didn't give him a 10-8 second round, I almost regret that in hindsight. Like, this felt more like a 30-26 fight to me.
I almost went 30-25. I almost gave him a 10-8.
The third round as well?
Almost. I said, I give that one. But we both picked Gibson to win. And I definitely think I thought volume and then the threat of takedowns would like win close rounds. Yeah. But I didn't expect this. Like, holy shit, dude. Like, he thrashed him.
Just beautiful stuff. And beautiful, not just wrestling, getting him down, but beautiful top game. Really, seriously, what the hell's going on with my camera? Anyway, where Helliger was doing the right things to try to generate scrambles or at least generate space so he could pop back up to his feet. And Gibson was just so smooth at anticipating his movements, floating on top, keeping his hips in the right place. All the things that you would want a taller, longer guy to do from top position to just shut down any chance for his opponent to escape. Brilliant wrestling and brilliant top position grappling from Cody Gibson. What a whooping.
Yeah, it was fun. So my son was watching this with me, and he'll watch. He'll be like, "Dad, I want to watch the fight with you." And then he's 9. Then he gets excited. He's like, "Who do you want to win?" And I'll say, "Well, the guy I picked." And then he'll go, "Okay, I'll go with the other guy." And then halfway through, he's like, "No, Dad, I got that guy, and you got that guy." And it's like, "Oh, you mean the guy way ahead?" But we were watching this, and I was talking about we were talking about post and getting to the post, and because obviously he wrestles, he's good too. But just talking about that and we discussing it, and Gibson was a perfect example of that. Like, as Helliger would try to get up, attack the post, put him back down. Another one was a good example was Joussius. Later on, we did the same thing again. Before that, Jamie Lynn Horth took on Ivana Petrovic, with Jamie Lynn Horth winning a split decision. To me, I actually scored the fight with Petrovic 29-28, but to me, there's no argument. This is as close of a 29-28 split decision. Like, to me, I'm watching the third round. I'm like, I'm tossing back and forth. Like, every exchange, I'm switching the third round from one person to the other. And it was like the last exchange where Petrovic landed on top and hit something like 3 or 4 strikes as the fight. And then I'm like, dude, I didn't get Petrovic that will exchange. So I got no issue with Jamie Lynn Horth winning the decision there. How'd you score?
I scored it for Horth. I gave her the second and third rounds, but even I was like, I think Horth has got this round, but her falling down with 5 seconds left and getting her face beat in as the horn sounds is not a great look. To me, again, we could harp on this every week, but low key, the 30-27 scorecard for Horth, it is inexcusable. There is no way, with even a basic understanding of the rules of MMA and a basic understanding of what you're watching, that you could award the first round to Jamie Lynn Horth.
Yeah, and I kind of got into it again, like Aaron Bronson is someone I can get into with Twitter because I know it's never personal, and he's such like, I met him a couple times. He's like, for high guys, he doesn't have an ego. He's the man. I love that guy. We got into it, and then he disagreed. He thought like there could be an argument for Horth winning the first round, and he kind of discussed his winning. And then I said to myself, I'm like, man, everybody is saying differently, and I respect his opinion so much. And I go, but he's at the event. You got a different view. I understand when you're at the event, you're doing things. It's different. It's hard. Like, you're running around when people are trying to talk to you. He's got to do interviews. He's doing his thing. And I wonder if it looks differently in person, because we get influenced by the commentators. that definitely influenced us.
Sure.
And I know you don't listen to the commentator much, but we get influenced. But people live, and I'm not talking about Aaron, but just people in general, they get influenced by the crowd because
Yep.
we get the crowd we hear the crowd, but not like you do in the arena. Obviously, the crowd being pro Canadian is really celebrating every moment she had compared to the opposite. So again, that said, I feel the same way I felt with the Haber fight. Both are really bad. I mean, freaking Petrovic hit a freaking headlock like that right there. Tells you
that was, and I give them hell when they're bad, so I'll give them credit when they're good. It was a pretty fun night for the UFC booth. I had the sound down for most of the night, and as soon as she grabbed the headlock throw, Fitzgerald is always very open about like, I'm not a fighter. I'm not even heavily trained. I depend on the color comp. Like, that's the cool thing about him. And he as soon as she grabs, he's like, well, that's a bad idea. And then it succeeds. And DC's like, that shouldn't work. Like, do you know what division you're watching? I don't call it the women's flyweight headlock throw for no reason. Like, it's so bad. And it almost worked again. Like, she almost did the Montserrat Conejo thing where she just headlock throws the same woman 5 times in a fight.
Yeah. I think Fitzgerald's like innocence is like gravitating. Like, he has like this, I'm a newbie, and he wants to learn, and he gets into it. And then Dan Hellie is another one on the wage. I love Dan Hellie. And I mean, obviously John N. Extra Man. Yeah. And the British guy, what's the British guy? He's good too. I can do
Gooden.
John Gooden. Yeah. So I like all of them. I'm in the minority. I know I'm in the minority. I'm the only person on the planet. I love DC as a commentator. I know I'm in the minority. I know it's probably because of my love for wrestling and the breakdown of the wrestling and everything, but also his character. He brings a character to his commentary, and it's this like guy next door, laugh about silly, funny things. Sometimes him and when busy together get a little too much of it, but him by himself, he has that John Madden, like, I try to dumb myself down. He was like, you're a Super Bowl winning coach. You know the rules. Like, John Madden, things.
You completely, he's the John Madden of
MMA. And people hated what I said last time, but I'm still going to say it.
He knows his stuff because of the way he talks. He doesn't necessarily come off as intelligent and well schooled as he is, because he butchers everybody's names, and he'll like break off just a sentence fragment because he just gets tripped up, which John Madden always did. I like that, and I agree. I used to be like, I can't take DC, but he is dependent on who's in the booth with him. He's great with Felder because he and Felder are just great analysts. He's not as good with Rogan because he just goes, and the same with Bisping. When he's with Rogan or Bisping, he goes off and just starts talking about other stuff.
Yeah, and Rogan and him have there's like, Rogan does it. He's not a guy who dumbs himself down. He's not. He almost overtalks it sometimes. But there's like a too big of, you can't have two big personalities. They kind of have both going. Like, Pat Summerall worked good with John Madden because their personalities didn't.
Yeah, clash. Pat Summerall was so like kind of buttoned down.
Yeah, exactly. So
it used to be awkward when it was Cruz and Cormier in the booth, but it's a lot better now. Like, I like Cruz better than I did a couple years ago, and I like Cruz and Cormier together better than I used to. So yeah.
So I'll say this: like, people like, wow, DC's dumb enough. People have no idea. Well, first of all, he was an incredible wrestler. Obviously, incredible fighter. He does commentating. He's also an incredible wrestling coach. Like, he runs one of the best programs in all of America. He has a wrestler, Daniel Cepeda. He has a big rivalry with Bo Basser in it. It's like, might be the best rivalry ever in high school wrestling. It's like incredible, these two guys. So anyways, I know I'm going a little DC myself and going down tangents. Let's get to the fun stuff. You want to do the negative first?
Sure.
Let's do the cut list. So the cut list, if both me and Ben agree that the UFC can let somebody go, they get their walking papers. Ben, I have 4. How many do you have?
Oh, let's see. I have 1. I have 2. I have give Give me just a second here. I have at least 3.
Okay.
I mean,
let's hear him. Let's hear you first.
Okay. Pedro Munoz has lost.
Wow. Okay.
He was. I mean,
I can see it now.
He is still competitive. Here's the thing. He's still competitive. He's still right in there against top 15 guys. But at some point, you got to win a fight.
Win. Yeah. I didn't have Munoz on my list. I think it's one of those ones I just kind of glazed right over. I'll like really dig into his record and thinking about it. But yeah, so I say Pedro Munoz, but I don't hate it. Give me another one.
I'm letting Caio Machado go. He's lost 3 in a row. And while Mick Parkin might turn into a good fighter, Don'Tale Mayes and Brendan Bellator are not.
No. I agree. The reason why I saved, and I have this like one rule, I saved Machado too. If I scored the fight for you, and I did for Machado, and I have no like cool score for Haber, like I thought he should have won this fight. So, and I actually thought he should have won against Parkin. So I've saved 2 guys. Give me a third. See if I can save all 3 here.
Would you save Chad and Helliger?
No.
He's lost 3 of 4, and the one win is over Pampas Gregorio, and Gregorio gassed out horribly. We have no idea how that's going to age.
Yeah, I mean, that was only his last fight, but I mean, his performance tonight was horrendous. I mean, not losing to Gibson, but
sure.
I almost went 30-25. So I'll tell you the 3 guys you saved. I hate cutting heavyweights, but Rodrigo Nascimento is so bad. I was cutting Rodrigo Nascimento, but you saved him. This guy's fun, but again, I'm worried about his durability and winning. Marc-Andre Berrio, he's lost 3 in a row, knocked out back-to-back fights bad. So I was cutting Marc-Andre Berrio, and this is the one that's going to hurt you. He's lost 3 in a row. I was getting rid of Trevin Giles. Listen, the guy said on his entrance, they talked about him that he wants to one day become a sergeant, study for the test. Well, you could have a lot more time. Study for that test, study for the sergeant test. That said, being a detective is better than being a sergeant. Don't be like me and turn down the promotion and stay as a detective. Anyways, I know they're not a detective, but you want to do the awards? Do we have awards?
Sure. We have awards. We have 4 performances of the night, no fight of the night.
Okay. Do you agree with them, Ben? And we'll throw out the chat. Throw out your performances, guys.
I like all of them.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, there are none there that are undeserving, I guess would be the best way to put it.
Okay.
Like, this was a night where a lot of the winning fighters looked terrible, and a lot of the winning fighters maybe should have lost. Like, there were a couple of really iffy decisions. There are none of those people among these performance winners, so I like it for that reason alone.
Okay. Let's hear him. Let's hear the. Oh, you want me? So you agree with them?
I agree with them, and now that I've looked at them a little more closely, these are the exact people I would have given the awards to.
All right. I would have gave a performance bonus to Giles Jourdain.
Ding, ding, ding.
I would give a performance bonus to Joussius Zalal.
Ding, ding, ding.
I would give a performance bonus to Dustin Stoltze.
Once again, ding, ding, ding.
And now I'm stuck with 2. I'm stuck between 2. One of them got the finish, Jasmine Joussius. The problem is there's no way I couldn't. I have to give Brandon Moreno a performance. So my 4th one would be Brandon Moreno.
Okay. Your 4th performance of the night did in fact go to Jasmine Joussius. I wouldn't have been mad at Moreno getting one. Hell, I wouldn't have been mad at Cody Gibson getting one, but I'm fine with those 4 finishers getting a little something extra in their stocking. Yeah.
Okay. I mean, if you give it to Jasmine, man, she probably she needs it more, I'm sure.
Yeah.
I don't know her finances, but I mean, still, she's obviously not getting the paycheck that Brandon Moreno is. Let's go to the Bulls and Bears. The Bulls and Bears, obviously, as a stock market reference, you want to be on the Bulls list. You don't want to be on the Bears list. We do it hockey style, 3, 2, 1. Do you want to go positive or negative, Ben?
I wouldn't mind going positive.
Okay. I'll let you go first.
Okay. Positive. I mentioned him off the top, but for somebody who was probably sitting at home with his feet up all night, it's a pretty good night for Alexandre Pantoja. Like anytime Brandon Moreno looks this good, it makes certain other people look good by comparison. Since he's fought all the other top guys in the division, Pantoja just sitting there going, "See, it's not easy to neutralize Brandon Moreno." He's one of them. Charles Jourdain. What? And Jourdain, again, I said this on the preview. His highlight reel does not match up with a guy that's barely 500 in the UFC. But if bantamweight becomes a division where kind of like Michel Pereira, he stops being just a highlight machine and becomes like an actual contender, that's not a bad thing. He looked fantastic in his debut in a new division. And
I hope he does make that run. That'd be fun.
Yeah. And Jasmine Jasudavicius as the most highly placed Canadian on the card to get such a kind of dominant and resounding win. Great night for her. I did not see any of this coming. I've underestimated her from the time she stepped in off of the Contender Series. I mean, I've been a believer for a year or two at this point, but great night for her. The last time they put a Canadian as far up the card as they could, Mike Malott kind of crapped the bed. Jasudavicius did not.
Yeah, and I didn't check the record of the Canadians tonight, but I know they had a very successful night compared to the last time they were in Canada. Was the complete opposite. They had a horrendous night. So tonight was a good night for the Canadians. I'll go with how about the guys with the last name Z? Youssef Zalal and Ayman Zahabi. We don't get the Z's often. Both of our guys on winning streak. Zalal 3 wins in a row. Zahabi 5 wins in a row in the UFC. So nice night for the Z-men. My number 2, I'm going to go with the main event. I'm going to go Brandon Moreno. His back was against the wall, being that, he recently lost to the champion and then he lost to Brandon Royval. He was really desperate, couldn't afford this loss, had one of the best performances of his career. And I'm sorry, nice,
Zed. Yes, good catch.
Nice job, because they're in Canada. It's got to be Zed. Nice, but dude, it's so funny. But I remember, like, listen, my wife has a million like nieces and nephews. Like, I mean, it's crazy. Like, it's like, and they're all around. And I don't know how time they did the ABCs. I never heard of Zed, and they're like saying, and then they found with it like QRSTUVWXY and Z, and I'm like, what the fuck?
It doesn't even rhyme.
That's what I'm saying.
Like, song, yeah.
Well, that's what they say. They go, well, in Canada, it's Zed. And I go,
A, B, C, D, E, F, J.
It doesn't rhyme. And they're like, what do you mean? It doesn't have to rhyme. It's like, we can go with Zed. I go, God, listen to the A, B, C, D, E, F, G. Like, it rhymes, and then it ends, Q, R, S, T, U, V, W, X, Y, and Z. Like,
come on, guys.
Come on, guys. Come on, Canada. And my number 1, just because of her age, getting a win over former champion Erin Blanchfield. I was on her. I'm even more of a believer now. Again, winning a title is going to be tough, but she showed me tonight that it's a possibility for her. Like, she could. Like, I always thought she could, but then the lack of athleticism started worrying me. Yeah, I don't think a lot of people will be signing up to fight her. She's tough. Let's go to the Bears. The Bears are and I'm not even putting up the thing. The Bears are the negative side. You do not want to be on this list. I'm going to flip it right back. I'm going to go Rose Namajunas. She would be much higher based on, her run at 125, but because she could always drop down to 115. She's got wins over the former champion. In that division, there's not many contenders right now because, I mean, other than Tatiana Suarez and probably Vernon Jandiroba, she's got a fast track if she wants to go try to get the title again. So it's not completely hopeless. So I only had a 3. Number 2, the guy we just talked about, Pedro Munoz. I mean, 1-5 in his last 7 fights. He's 1-5 with 1 no contest. So in his last 7 fights, that, I mean, again, not a bad loss on that record. That's like my one. And I actually thought he might have got a win against Marlon Vera. So, but still, like at his age, I think he's like continue to see him on the prelims moving forward. And my number one, a guy that had so much buzz not that long ago, now lost back-to-back fights, Jack Shore. I mean, not only did he lose back fights, he got stopped in back-to-back fights. His stock is way down right now.
Yeah, I can't disagree with that. I mean, Jack was on my list. He's lost 2 in a row. He's lost 3 of his last 4. I mean, dude, 2.5 years ago, he was undefeated as a pro, undefeated as an amateur. He was a top 10 fighter in one of the toughest divisions in the UFC. And while, I mean, we knew he was an overachiever and was kind of an outside dark horse candidate to ever really get into the title picture, it has been a serious fall from grace ever since. He's still only 29 years old, but he needs a serious retooling if he's going to be a factor. I mean, this dude could be fighting for his job next time out. That's hard to picture compared to where I thought he'd be at the end of 2024 if you'd asked me a couple of years ago. So he was on my list as well. Also on my list, Canadian wrestling. I know there are good wrestlers from Canada. Shout out George St. Pierre. But tonight, a lot of Canadians, even though Canadians did pretty well on the night overall, a lot of the Canadians got out wrestled even in victory. Some of them lost specifically because they got out wrestled so badly. Just ask Chad and Helliger. So not a great night for Canadian wrestling.
Except for Jasmine is. Except Jazz,
she is the exception. And man, I usually try to steer clear of the main and co-main event fighters, but Amir Albazi, this was a title eliminator for him in a way that it probably wasn't necessarily for Moreno. And whether it's because he's just got that much rust, or he's that seriously compromised by his multiple surgeries, or he's not actually the guy we thought he might have been, whatever the reasons might be, this was one of those, there are levels to this game type headliner fights. And he just looked so outmatched against Moreno. It's got to be discouraging for him. It's discouraging for anybody that saw him as a fresh face in the title picture, because he's going to have a whole hell of a lot to prove his next time out.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Let's get to Dude Seriously. Do you have any Dude Seriouslys?
I've already harped up and down on all the like lousy judging, whoever gave a 30-27 scorecard to Jamie Lynn Horth, a couple of this, like, I didn't have a great night of picks, but considering that 3 of the fights I got wrong, I disagreed with the decision. It could have been better. So I mean, I won't rehash all of those. Like, those were all of my Dude Seriouslys.
Yeah, so I didn't get as many Dude Seriouslys as I normally do, because a lot of times the Dude Seriouslys are things the commentators say, people say in the post fight, and my wife. So my uncle is from Texas, is in town, and he took my kids out tonight to go to the movie. So my wife, me and my wife could have like alone time, and I'm like, honey, I gotta watch the fights. So she was downstairs watching the fights with me and just talking to me, and I'm like, I'm not getting Dude Seriously. That's my favorite. But I'll throw some, and I want to say that because I want to give my wife a shout out, because I didn't catch this. My wife did. So my first one, shout out to my wife. Yusuf Zalal said he wants to be a world champion again. I didn't know he was a world champion before. Did you catch that?
At what?
I'm assuming he's talking. Like, I'm assuming it was like, because he mentioned about fighting Ilia Topuria. I think he meant to say, I want to fight the world champion again. Instead, he says, I want to be a world champion. Unless he's counting like he won some regional thing that they call himself the world champion.
He's like the LFA featherweight
champion. Yeah. When they say that, they call himself like I remember like a friend of mine in MMA, he like won like a regional. They call himself, well, I was a 2-time world champion. Like, shut you're not fucking world champion. like you're not world champion. Anyways, but it's like when, like, I don't know how, I mean, obviously Texas is much different, but like in Rhode Island, you see someone walking on like a Division D state champion football. Like, dude, stop. You're not the best in the state. Like, the Division I teams would absolutely roll you guys. Like, stop. Like, the worst team in Division I still beats you guys. Anyways, Dude, seriously, come on, Zal, get that together. I think you could be a world champion one day, but not yet. We talked about how great Brandon Fitzgerald is, but dude, seriously, he called sub 41 Canadian legends. A cup sub 40. What's the name of the band?
Some 41.
Is
Some
that a
41.
band?
Yeah. Some
Yeah.
41.
Canadian legends. I don't know a single sub 41 song.
Yeah, I mean, if you heard one of their couple of hits, you'd probably recognize it.
Yeah,
They
but
were
you know
all
who's-
over kind of modern rock radio, but
Yeah, you know who's Canadian legends?
Nickelback
Yeah, Brian Adams
and Nickelback
and
and Bryan Adams,
Shania Twain
Rush.
and what's that? Celine Dion.
Oh,
right, yeah, you said right. Yeah, that's good.
I said Rush. Yeah.
Yeah, come on, dude. Seriously. And my last one, when again, I would have to go Fitzgerald again. He was talking about Trevor Giles. He said, "Oh, he's a cop part-time, a full-time cop, and it's a good distraction for him." And it worked for Stipe Miocic, because he was a firefighter, so it really works for some guys. Don't ever compare police and firefighters, dude, because police actually work. Firefighters just sit around and like play video games and shit. So like he can lift weights and shadow box. Like, dude, seriously, come on, Fitzy, you know better.
I will not dip into the rivalry between the different first responders. Yeah,
like firefighters don't work. Come on, dude, seriously. All right, dude. So we've done all the fun stuff. What is your grade for the card?
C.
Yeah, that's fine. Like I'm okay with it. Like C plus. Like I was passing. I enjoyed myself tonight.
Yeah.
Nothing too bad. I thought the main event. I know they went to a lot of decisions tonight, but like the main and co-main event, to me it's kind of like really weighted on the top, and both fight. I mean, Moreno put on a great showing. That was fun to watch. And then, I mean, you got a close fight going into the 5th round between Namajunas and Blanchfield. I was hooked. So, who's your listener of the night? This is a tough one.
I mean, kind of like Rose Namajunas, 1777 memorabilia came out hot and then faded late. So, no award for you. And all the other people in the running for me are people that really are Hall of Famers and shouldn't be eligible anymore. People like Ben Cooley, Marcus Mustard, Ninja Kitty. I think I'll give it to Cooley. He made me laugh a couple times, and we established within the first 2 minutes of the show that he was the smarter Ben on the night. So got to tip my hat to him.
Yeah. 30C West always trolling me. 30C West he's really stepped up his trolling game. Some really funny lines. I'm gonna give it. So Ben Cooley is actually one of the ones I was writing down too. So Marcus Mustard came in late, really strong. I'm gonna go with Ninja Kitty. Ninja Kitty made me laugh a lot. Like came at me a couple times. I love that I'm such an egomaniac. You come at me, you go up higher on the list. Maybe if somehow you can make it about me, you go higher on the list, guys.
And welcome, Ice Viking. I'm not sure if you've been on our recaps before, but we definitely appreciated you dropping in and hanging out. Yes.
I know. Yeah, Ice Viking is right. The reason why you don't recognize him is Ice Viking is not a fan of Mr. Duffy.
Oh,
he enjoys. He's not a fan of me either. He thought Dev was going to be here, so that's why Ice Viking was here.
Ice Viking is actually Dane Fox. Like.
So there you guys have it. Sorry about not having a recap show last week. I want to say something real quick before we leave. There's a big, obviously, in America, Tuesday's a really big day, the election. Unfortunately, a lot of people take that very serious. Me and Ben are voting for 2 different people, unless Ben comes to his senses and votes for the right person. But we're voting for 2 different people. That doesn't change.
We're both voting.
We're both voting.
Yeah.
That doesn't change anything. Like, if you vote for one person and your person loses, still be good to the other person. It's still be good to people. So, we're not a political show. But don't live your life through politics. At the end of the day, you still got to get up. You still got to get a job. Don't hate your neighbor because they have a different sign than you.
Yeah. I mean, I said, let's go Brandon tonight.
There you go. And unless my person unless my person loses, then we fucking riot.
No, then we riot.
I'm just kidding. So you guys have it. Anyways, this is the most in-depth recap show. on planet Earth. Thank you guys for all listening to you guys all in the chat. And we'll be back next week. UFC Magny versus Pratis card. I have no idea where it is. I'm assuming it's in Vegas. So
it's at the Apex.
I assume so. So we'll be back next week. See you then.